Billionaire gave 4 black credit cards to test for people. What the janitor bought left her speechless. The room was silent when Eleanor Grant walked in. Everything about her commanded attention. She wasn't just a billionaire, she was a woman people whispered about in boardrooms and admired in headlines. Elegant yet understated, she carried herself with the quiet assurance of someone who had built empires but never forgotten the fragility of life. Some billionaires believed power came from money. Eleanor believed otherwise. To her, money wasn't power, it was a mirror. It shows you who people really are. She once told a journalist, "Give someone unlimited resources, and you'll discover their heart. Some will choose greed, some will choose vanity, and a rare few will choose compassion." That morning, in her penthouse office overlooking the city, she decided to put that belief to the test. On the polished mahogany table before her lay 4 sleek, black credit cards. Each gleamed under the crystal chandelier, as if holding secrets untold. There were no ordinary cards. These were limitless, unrestricted, the kind that could purchase almost anything on earth. But Eleanor didn't care about the purchases themselves. She cared about the choices. She had invited 4 very different people into the room. First, there was the entrepreneur, a sharp young man whose startup had made waves in the tech world. Dressed in a tailored suit, he radiated ambition, every move calculated, every smile practiced. Next was the influencer. Dazzling in her designer heels and flawless makeup, she kept glancing at her phone, capturing short clips for her millions of followers. Fame clung to her like perfume, and she was certain the world adored her every move. Beside her sat the corporate manager, a middle-aged man with steady eyes and a meticulous tie knot. He looked like someone who valued order, planning, and practicality. Security was his compass. And finally, sitting a little apart from the others, was Mr. Harris, the janitor. His uniform was clean but faded, his shoes scuffed from years of walking the same halls. His hands were rough, his back slightly bent, but his eyes carried a warmth that outshone the city lights behind Eleanor's window. To the others, this was just a strange opportunity. To him, it felt almost unbearable. Eleanor smiled, breaking the silence. "I've invited you all here for something unusual," she began. Her voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable gravity to it. "In front of me are 4 black cards. Each one is yours to use for the next 24 hours. There are no restrictions. Spend it on anything you wish. Tomorrow, return and tell me what you bought. That's all." The entrepreneur leaned forward, his eyes bright with calculations. The influencer's grin widened, visions of luxury filling her imagination. The manager straightened his tie, already mapping out a plan. But Mr. Harris, a broken bar. He looked down at the card as Eleanor slid it across the table toward him. He held it gingerly, as though afraid it might burn his fingertips. His stomach tightened. To him, this wasn't freedom, it was responsibility. Eleanor watched them all. The test had begun. The next day, they returned. The entrepreneur was the first to speak. He rose from his chair, confidence radiating in every gesture. "I invested," he said, 3 promising companies: renewable energy, logistics, and a tech startup about to go public. With this card, I've positioned myself to triple its value by next year. Money, after all, should grow. Eleanor nodded, acknowledging his cleverness. Growth had its merits, but she felt no spark in his words. The influencer stood next, her phone recording every angle. She laughed lightly as if the whole situation were part of a show. "I bought designer clothes, luxury handbags, the latest jewelry, and I booked a trip to Paris for a photo shoot. My followers are going to go crazy when they see it. Engagement will skyrocket. Honestly, this card is the best content tool I've ever had." Her excitement filled the room, but it rang hollow. Eleanor's smile faded into polite silence. The manager adjusted his tie and cleared his throat. "I took care of practical matters," he said. "I paid off debts, bought a reliable new car, and upgraded my home office. Stability is success. This way, my family is secure, and I can work better." Practical, reasonable, predictable. Eleanor respected his discipline, but her heart remained untouched. Then came Mr. Harris. He didn't stand tall like the entrepreneur, or pose like the influencer, or rehearse his words like the manager. Instead, he walked slowly to the table with a worn plastic grocery bag in his hand. His steps were heavy, as though carrying not just purchases, but a lifetime of humility. Eleanor tilted her head. "What's in the bag, Mr. Harris?" He placed it gently on the table, then pulled out its contents one by one: small boxes of winter coats, pairs of children's shoes, stacks of warm blankets, and envelopes of food vouchers. Gasps filled the room. The glamour of investments, designer brands, and new cars seemed to shrink in the shadow of those humble items. "I went to the community shelter," Mr. Harris said softly. His voice carried the weight of compassion. "There are families there who don't have enough for the cold months ahead. Children walking to school without proper shoes. Parents skipping meals so their little ones can eat. I thought a broken bar, if I can help them even for a little while, that's worth more than anything I could buy for myself." The words silenced the room. The entrepreneur shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how small his investments sounded. The influencer's smile faltered, her phone now dim and forgotten. The manager lowered his gaze, shame creeping into his pride. Eleanor leaned back in her chair, her eyes glistening. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. This was the kind of truth that stripped away pretense, the kind of answer money could never buy. Slowly, she rose. Her heels clicked softly across the marble floor until she stood before Mr. Harris. She took his rough, calloused hands in hers, and then, to the astonishment of everyone in the room, placed all 4 credit cards into them. "You've passed the test." None of them even realized what's happening. She whispered, "From this moment on, whatever dream you have, I'll fund it. Whatever mission you believe in, I'll support it. Because you've shown me something greater than ambition, greater than influence, greater than wealth. You've shown me humanity." Tears welled in his eyes. For years he had lived paycheck to paycheck, invisible in the very building he cleaned, unseen, uncelebrated. And now, because he had chosen compassion over comfort, his life and the lives of countless others were about to change. That night, the shelter saw miracles. Trucks rolled in with food supplies. New coats and blankets arrived by the dozens. Builders began repairing the crumbling walls. Families who had been cold and hungry just hours before sat together in warmth, sharing meals, their laughter echoing through the hall. Children who once braved the winter in torn sneakers walked proudly in new boots. Parents who had nearly given up felt hope return like a long-lost friend. At the center of it all was Mr. Harris, the janitor everyone had overlooked. He became the bridge between wealth and need, the living proof that kindness was the truest form of riches. Eleanor stood in the corner, watching quietly. Her heart swelled as she realized the magnitude of what he had done. She had always believed money was a mirror, but now, she understood something even deeper. Money in the hands of compassion becomes a weapon against despair. Later, as the night grew calm, Eleanor sat with Mr. Harris on a wooden bench outside the shelter. Children played nearby, their new coats slightly too big but their smiles brighter than the stars. "You changed their lives," she told him softly. He shook his head. "No, ma'am." "You did. You gave me the chance." Eleanor smiled faintly. "I only opened the door. You walked through it." His eyes glistened. "For 20 years, I've cleaned floors people walked across without noticing. They stepped around me, over me, but never saw me. Today a broken bar for the first time, I feel seen. And because of that, they're seen too." Her chest tightened. Sometimes, the greatest wisdom came not from scholars or leaders, but from the quiet dignity of those the world ignored. The following morning, Eleanor called a press conference. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, expecting a typical business announcement. Instead, Eleanor told them the story of a janitor who had chosen generosity over self-indulgence. "This man," she said, placing a hand on Mr. Harris's shoulder, "reminded me and should remind all of USA that true wealth isn't measured by the size of your bank account, but by the size of your heart." The story spread like wildfire. Across the country, people shared it on television, in newspapers, on social media. Donations to shelters skyrocketed. Strangers began helping strangers. For the first time in a long time, headlines carried hope instead of despair. As for Eleanor and Mr. Harris, their partnership grew into something remarkable. Together, they started a foundation dedicated to serving overlooked communities, funded by Eleanor's resources, guided by Harris's wisdom and lived experience. Though Eleanor remained a billionaire, She knew she had been changed forever. She often thought back to that single day when 4 black cards revealed 4 different souls. The day when a janitor's humble choice rewrote countless lives. Because sometimes, the richest hearts beat beneath the humblest uniforms. And Eleanor realized something profound, is something she carried for the rest of her life.